What if the game you thought you knew, the one you've spent countless nights obsessing over turn after turn, hour after hour, suddenly stopped playing by its own rules? That's exactly what Civilization VII does. It doesn't just tweak the formula or polish the surface. It dares to ask, what if everything you believed about Civ changed? And let me tell you, whether you're a hardcore strategist or a weekend empire builder, that question hits deep. We sat down with this 7th installment over the weekend. No expectations, just curiosity. A few hours in, that curiosity turned into confusion, and then fascination, and then hesitation. Because this isn't just a refined version of Civ 6. No, Civ 7 swings for the fences. It reaches for a complete reimagining of what civilization can be, and at first glance, it feels bold, it feels fresh, it feels big. But something underneath all that ambition hums with uncertainty, like a strange rhythm out of sync with the familiar Civ cadence. You start to notice it in the pacing, the way the game unfolds, the decisions it forces you to make. There's a sense of controlled chaos, like a map that's been beautifully drawn, and then splashed with ink in just the wrong places. It's civilization, yes, but through a cracked lens. And you're left wondering, is this the next great step for the franchise, or a clever mirage? There's tension in that realization. You feel it when a mechanic seems a little too experimental, or when a system you've trusted for years suddenly shifts beneath your feet. There's admiration for the boldness, but also a quiet resistance brewing deep down. Was this change really necessary? Or have we wandered too far from home? And that's the magic, and maybe the madness, of Civ 7. It pulls you in with familiarity, but refuses to let you get comfortable. Every new feature dares you to adapt. Every turn whispers, "This isn't what you remember. Are you ready for what comes next?" This is not just a sequel, it's a provocation, and we're just getting started. What if Benjamin Franklin led the Mongols? No, seriously, imagine that for a moment. The man with the kite and the key, now commanding horseback warriors through the steppes. It sounds like a meme. But in Civilization VII, that scenario is not just possible, it's encouraged. This is the kind of bold chaos Civ 7 brings to the table. Let's start with the biggest change, the ages system. Instead of progressing organically based on your civilization's development, the game now divides every match into 3 distinct global eras: the Age of Antiquity, the Age of Exploration, and the Modern Age. And here's the twist. Every player advances into each new age at the exact same time. At first glance, it sounds like a clever pacing mechanic, and it is, sort of. Each age introduces new mechanics, new challenges, and forces you to pivot your strategies on the fly. But here's where things get weird. The transitions feel more like hard resets than natural evolution. One moment, you're carefully building your army and economy, and the next, boom. You've crossed a threshold you weren't entirely prepared for, and everything shifts. Suddenly, your military units auto-upgrade. Some stay, some vanish. Your tech tree collapses and reshuffles, and the worst part? You're not always sure why. It's jarring, not just mechanically but emotionally. Civ has always been about the seamless arc of history. That satisfying feeling of guiding a people from humble beginnings to global dominance. With this new system, that narrative arc splinters. You're no longer nurturing a continuous legacy. You're adapting to a world that's evolving without your consent. And that's not the only upheaval. Leaders and civilizations have been split apart entirely. Now, leaders exist independently of their civs, with their own unique bonuses and synergy quirks. It opens the door to creativity, sure, but it also risks turning history into parody. Franklin leading Mongols. Harriet Tubman commanding Imperial China. Machiavelli building wonder after wonder for the Zulus. It's weird, it's kind of fun, it's also distracting. You can't help but ask, is this a fresh layer of depth, or a convenient way to sell more DLC skins down the road? Still, not every change feels alien. Combat, for instance, has received some serious love. The introduction of commander units, essentially mobile power-ups for your army, adds real strategic flavor. You can group units under a commander for faster travel, then unpack them to fight. Each commander has a skill tree too, which adds light RPG depth without overwhelming you. And finally, flanking. Real flanking. Not just plus 10% if you're on the side nonsense. You can actually position units to surround and trap enemies. And it works. It's satisfying, it feels earned. So let's recap. A bold ages system that breaks tradition. Leaders who feel like alternate history fever dreams. And combat that finally respects your tactical brain. Cool ideas. No doubt. But are they pushing too far from what makes Civ? Let's keep going. There's no denying it. Civilization VII is a beautiful game. Zoom into the map and your cities come alive. Each structure feels hand-placed, distinct to your chosen civilization, detailed with cultural flair. There's pride in how your empire looks this time around. The leaders, too, have received a visual upgrade. Yes, they're still animated in that stylized Civ cartoon kind of way, but the models are sharper, expressions more nuanced, and the animations smoother overall. It feels like a world you want to spend time in. The music does its job well enough. It follows the familiar Civ formula, soaring strings, regional motifs, that grand historical tone. But it doesn't quite hit the same emotional highs as, say, Civ IV's Baba Yetu or Civ 6 themed tracks. Still, it gives the game its intended cultural pulse. Where things start to break, however, is in the sound design, or rather, the lack of it. Sound effects in Civ 7 are oddly flat. Important actions feel like they happen in a vacuum. No satisfying clicks, no ambient life, no audio cues that make your empire feel alive. You build a wonder, and instead of triumph, you get silence. You declare war, and instead of a thunderous clash, you get a mild pop. It's jarring, and it leaves the experience feeling oddly hollow. But all of this pales in comparison to the real issue. The UI Civ 7 isn't their first game. So, why does the interface feel like an early access prototype? Menus are inconsistent. Some feel clean, others look half-finished. Pop-ups randomly fail to show, tutorials that refuse to disappear. Basic info is buried under clicks. Navigation feels like a scavenger hunt. It's frustrating, especially in a game where clarity and control are everything. Civ has always been a game of planning, reacting, adapting. But if you can't even find what you need to plan with, that's a problem. And it's not just cosmetic. The UI slows you down. It breaks immersion. It makes even small decisions feel clunky. Does it ruin the game? No. But it absolutely keeps it from soaring. And in a game about rising civilizations, that stings. At first, the New Ages system in Civilization VII sounds like a bold innovation. Everyone moves through history in sync, together. No one's left behind, no one snowballs ahead. But once you hit your first age transition, it doesn't feel like a graceful evolution. It feels like a reset. Your units suddenly transform. Your carefully arranged military, some of it vanishes. Others downgrade or change in ways that aren't fully explained. Commanders carry over, but not all their troops do. One moment you're in control, strategizing, dominating, and the next, you're scrambling to understand what just happened. It's disorienting, it's jarring, and most of all, it doesn't feel like you made the choice. You're not just advancing through time. You're being dragged through it. And while the idea of dividing a game into antiquity, exploration, and modern eras is intriguing in theory, it ends up feeling mechanical, artificial. Every player, being forced to leap forward at the same time, strips away the organic flow of Civilization's signature gameplay. You no longer shape your own historical journey. The game shapes it for you. It's like spending hours nurturing a beautiful Greek empire, only to be told, "Great job. Now, let's make you the Normans." Wait, what? It breaks that sense of narrative ownership that's always been at the heart of Civ. You're not building a civilization from start to finish anymore. You're participating in a 3-act play, with hard scene changes and no intermissions. And while this was clearly designed to fix the snowball problem, where one dominant Civ could race ahead and never be caught, you have to ask, was that really a problem that needed fixing? Or was it part of what made Civ so satisfying? The rise, the fall, the comeback, the history you created. Now it's all synchronized, predictable, and maybe a little too clean. So here's the real question. Is Civ 7 a bold new future for the franchise, one that forces everyone to play on equal footing, or is it a fractured timeline, one where you never quite get to tell your own story? Here's the thing. Despite all our gripes, the confusing UI, the jarring age transitions, the odd leader combinations, we still fell into that classic Civilization trap. Just one more turn, and that says something. Because buried beneath the awkward experiments and design pivots, there's still that undeniable Civ magic. The combat? It's the best it's ever been. Flanking, commanders, real tactical flow. The cities? Gorgeous. Each one feels like it belongs in a living, breathing world, not just plopped on a grid. Even the age pacing, while strange at first, does help keep the tempo brisk and the stakes high throughout the campaign. But there are cracks. You can't customize your world map beyond the basics. You can't name your cities. You're constantly nudged to sign up for a 2K account just to play a single-player game. And the price? Civ 7 can run you up to $130 depending on the version. That's not just steep, it's empire-level taxation. So, here's where we land. Civilization VII is an ambitious shakeup, no question. Some ideas work, some don't. But the core of Civ, building, expanding, scheming, conquering, it's still here. And it still grabs you when you least expect it. On 30, we're hesitant. As a wild Civ experiment, it's at least intriguing, despite everything. Despite the confusing UI, the jarring transitions, the overpriced bundles, there's something powerful that still lingers in Civilization VII. That familiar itch. That moment when you whisper to yourself, just one more turn. It's messy, it's frustrating, but it's still Civ, and maybe that's enough. Or maybe it's not. So, what do you think? Are you ready to rebuild your empire in a world that no longer plays by the old rules? Or is it time to let the dust settle and leave this chapter behind? Drop your thoughts below, rage, praise, or questions. We want to hear all of it. And if this video helped you pause before hitting that buy button, or encouraged you to dive in regardless, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow Civ warriors. Because in the end, this isn't just about games, it's about the stories we choose to write and the legacies we leave behind. Thanks for watching. Now go make history.